What's up, nerds and nerdettes and wee little nerdlings all? It's your buddy Johnny G for Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming. Hi everyone, how's it going? This is an interesting episode, I think, because I'm just quoting here. I have no expertise on this. I have some self-knowledge on this myself from when I was younger as a teenager. But generally, I'm not an expert. I'm just making quotes on things that I've come across, curious about the subject. So I wanted to open with that, just getting into this. Again, I'm no expert at all. And individuals may have experienced, different things than what some of the findings I'm going to go over, are talking about. Now, when I say as the thumbnail should be reading, the mental health of Dungeons and Dragons, obviously I'm not talking about the mental health of a game, an inanimate object. No. What I do mean is the mental health image and aura around Dungeons and Dragons, you could say. How it affects. Have there been studies on this? I mean, I grew up in the Satan panic, of the 80s. I started playing in the 70s. Everything was fine in the mid to late 70s. By the time the 80s rolled around, there was all these parent groups against Dungeons and Dragons being satanic and influential in a negative way. Craziness. Nowadays, it's seen extremely differently, isn't it? But I was wondering if there's been studies on negative or positive effects of Dungeons and Dragons on individuals, right? Especially after all these years, when I hope there may be more of a balanced view than there was 45 years ago. It is a long time. So, yes, as I found out, there have been studies done over the last several years concerning active, regular playing of tabletop role-playing games, such as Dungeons and Dragons, and the connection it has with a player's both mental and emotional health and state of mind, their well-being. It does seem to factor in. Now, before I get into this, I do want to say that on a personal note, I did find having access to playing, and especially for me, running role-playing games, especially pretty much everything TSR published back in the 70s and 80s, it was very helpful to me. It did help me feel better about myself. It helped me get through some issues and problems of the day. So overall, it was a very positive influence to me. I even remember there was one time, and I don't know which relative this was. Maybe my mom and dad told me at the time, but I don't remember a name being attached to this. But at some point in the early 80s, one of my relatives contacted my parents asking, "Does John still play Dungeons and Dragons?" My parents were like, "Yeah, sure he does. Why not? Didn't you hear? Didn't you see the news? Aren't you worried?" Basically, my parents' answer was, relax. It's just a game. He's not losing his mind over this. Nobody's losing their mind over this. Just relax. I know firsthand. I'm his parent. I'm his dad. I'm his mom. I see what's going on. It's all cool. Don't worry. Well, it did lead to a bit of an obsession. But as far as being satanic, evil, indoctrinated, my parents knew that was all hogwash. It was all bullshit. So I was lucky. Not all the people I've grown up knowing over the years have been lucky enough to have those parents. I've known several people over the years who have told me quite the opposite. Even there was one neighborhood kid lived around the corner on Broadway, about 215th Street, who always wanted to play D&D with me. And the one day he finally had time to, and he contacted me. He said, "John, come around the corner, come over to my house. Let's play D&D before my mom gets home." And that's when I found out that I actually knew someone personally. That was back in the 80s, whose parent was that religiously against D&D and thought it did destructive things to kids and people's minds. But yeah, nowadays it's different. It's a lot different. It is so sociably accessible and acceptable that some of us old grognards, it's sickening. But I'm not here to talk about that. No. I'm here to talk about the effect that it has in some of the studies. So I got my notes that I've been taking on this. So there's been research that has actually been conducted in James Cook University involving participants playing 8 one-hour sessions of Dungeons & Dragons for a consecutive 8 weeks. These findings revealed significant decrease in depression, stress, and anxiety, along with notable increase in self-esteem and self-efficiency among the participants. I mean, again, going back to my own personal experience with the game, I am not surprised at those findings at all. A study conducted at Harrisburg University of Science and Technology found that D&D and similar tabletop role-playing games do indeed significantly reduce the levels of stress in participants, at the same time also increasing in the same participants their social skills. From a personal point of view, being a player, it does have to increase your social skills because you have to learn to be social with other individuals. You have to learn how to talk to them, how to listen to them. As a dungeon master or game master, storyteller, depending on which RPG you're playing, whatever they call us, we're the same thing. That is a lot of need to get over social anxieties. I mean, as the DM, I have to be in constant interaction with these individuals. And it's not like the old days when I was a kid. It's not like nowadays I'm playing just exclusively with my own personal friends. I mean, I'm getting older now, so I have to reach out into the community for new players from time to time. So this is definitely a social builder. I've always known that. Now, there's another study published by Frontiers in Psychology that suggests that role-playing games can serve as effective interventions for improving mental health. This result found that engaging in role-playing games on a weekly basis can reduce one's levels of depression, stress, anxiety, as well as loneliness. Now, I'm sure nowadays, with so much online gaming, I mean, it's still helping against the loneliness, but not to probably, I'm guessing here, not to such a degree as when you're all sitting around the table together, because that is a completely different interaction. But at least either way, online or in person at the table, you're still socially interacting. You're therefore not alone. During the time you're playing the game, it's pretty much impossible to feel loneliness because you're engaged with an entire group of heroes. Oh, hopefully you're playing heroes out on a dangerous mission for some noble purpose. And if you really let yourself get into the game, as long as you still remember it's a game, then a lot of things are going to melt away for that moment. The suspension of disbelief, just like when you're sitting in a darkened movie theater and your entire reality of perception is nothing but that movie. And the same thing happens, at least in a good, maybe not in every, but everyone I've played, I swear, and DM'd and run. But yeah, you get to lose a lot of that sense of everything else around you. So you're not going to feel lonely. I'll tell you this though, in a good game session, you're going to feel a little stress, but it's not social anxiety stress as much as it's the stress of, holy shit, we got to get this quest done. We got to save these villagers. We got to get the kids out of the burning building, or whatever that moment's quest is. A good game is, but that's different stress. That's different anxiety. Don't mix up social stress, social anxiety with the needed amount of stress and anxiety sprinkled into a story that you're playing to make it exciting. There's a difference there. Additionally, an article from Learning Scientists discusses how the engaging and interactive nature of games like D&D can enhance decision-making abilities and memory retention, potentially leading to better cognitive functioning. Okay, I can't remember what the movie was, but there was a zombie movie I was watching. They were all trapped in a apartment building. I don't know if it was New York City or not. I can't remember the city, but they were all trapped in this apartment building that the city had sealed off. You know the movie I'm talking about? And they sealed the whole building off in this toxic cleaning case or something, leaving the people in the building with the infected. And right away, I looked at my wife, and I don't remember why she was watching this with me. She doesn't normally watch horror films. But I remember saying to her, well, obviously none of these people have ever played Dungeons and Dragons because they are doing absolutely nothing to figure out any real ways out of this situation. And that's the way I look at things. And I do know and understand it's because I'm a gamer, because I'm a tabletop RPGer, that I dissect things in my mind to a degree. And it's not me. I'm not patting myself on the back. You as a player do the same thing. As a game master, you do the same thing. It's in our nature. It becomes first nature to us. So yeah. Now also direct studies have linked Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop role-playing games directly to cognitive sharpness and increased mental functions. Cognitive benefits associated with Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games do include enhanced creativity, improved problem-solving skills, social interaction, and stress relief. Again, different kinds of stress. Remember that. So I'm very happy to read this, to find this out, to look up this research has been done, because it is a world different from the old Grognardian days, the old Gygaxian days of the 70s and the 80s. Well, not so much the 70s. Nobody seemed to care from 74 to about 78, 79. Then all of a sudden, bam! All the parent groups started. And if you're old enough like me, you remember the little pamphlets, right? You remember those little pamphlet books? The long, thin pamphlet books about someone getting conned into playing a game of D&D, and it turned out to be a satanic ritual. Oh, those things were hysterical. I love those. I wonder if I can find an example and get them up right here. I probably will. I'm going to take a look. Make sure I get something up here. Those are great. But yeah, it's come a long way. We have a much better understanding now that the game can indeed be helpful to individuals to play the game. Me personally, I think one of the best things about Dungeons and Dragons, or any RPG pretty much other than D20 Modern, is a great game for letting go of real life problems, real life situations, and just delving into a complete and utter fantasy or sci-fi setting. Really. Leave the real world behind. If you want to bring real world problems into a role-playing game, get D20 Modern. No, I'm not joking. It's a very good system that was highly overlooked, I think. But anyway, maybe that should be another monologue. So thank you for joining me on this journey to discover the changes in perception and understanding about Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop role-playing games. I'm your buddy Big John A.G. for Two Gun Pixar presents Legendary Gaming, and I am out of here.